Hey everybody, good day. This is Steve Prusbrowski coming at you with tip number 12 in the series 101 Tips to Ace Your Promotional Examination, based on the recently published book of mine from Fire Engineering Books and Videos. So let's get going into tip number 11. So as a reminder, my website, code3firetraining.com, has a great plethora, for lack of a better term, of information for all ranks of people. Even if you don't want to ever get promoted in the fire service and you just want to hopefully be the best that you can be, whatever rank that you're in, firefighter, engineer, captain, all the way up to fire chief, lots of great information on there that can help you hopefully strive to be the best that you can be. So now, as a reminder, my 101 tips book is available on fireengineeringbooks.com. There's a 25% off code that you can use, 101 tips, if you so desire, if you haven't gotten it already. But on to tip number 11, tip number 12. So this sort of ties into the next tip. The next tip that we're going to talk about, tip 13, is about having a vision. You could call it this, but I chose to separate it. So my point is know where you want to be in the future, 5 years out, 10 years out, 15 years out, 25 years out. Now, I know this may be not applicable if let's say you're 50 years old and you're like, man, I'm ready to retire, any day now, one bad day away. I'm not talking about that. This is something that hopefully, if you're early in your career or even a future firefighter, are able to look at yourself in the mirror and sort of plan things out. Now, even if you're halfway through your career, 3/4 of the way through your career, it doesn't mean that you can't look out. Trust me. Maybe you're going to retire in 3 years and that's what your goal is. Great. But you're still here on the job. Do the best that you can to leave it better than you found it. But anyway, this is something I challenge all of us to share with our new hires. You get those fresh new firefighters that are in the academy, ready to go, and then they start their fire service career, during the probationary period. Then they're there on the job, hopefully for many years to come. Some of them will become chiefs, some captains, some will just stay as firefighters. Nothing wrong with any of that. But I think it's all of our responsibilities as we mentor people and prepare people for the future, which is all of our responsibilities, regardless of our rank and position, is to inspire those folks. Like I like to share with our new recruits, hey, good luck in the academy here. Enjoy the ride. Obviously, you got to pass everything, do well. We have faith in you because we've obviously brought you to this position. You can do it. But I also try to plant some seeds in there as well of like, you know what? Your career is going to go fast. Enjoy the ride, but think about where you want to be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years out. Some people may know from the get-go that they want to promote to someday be a company officer. Awesome. Some people may just go, you know what? Firefighter, that's it. Awesome. Some may say, you know what? Driver's the job for me. Or better yet, tiller operator. I get it. Nothing wrong with any of those positions. And there's nothing wrong with any of you that say, you know what? Someday I want to be a battalion chief. Or maybe even I want to be a fire chief for whatever reason that you have. Dreams are good. But the point is to plan ahead. When I was a new recruit in the department, I remember that was one of the questions they asked all of us. Here we are in the middle of our academy, brand new firefighters. And I remember that was a question asked by one of the instructors of, hey, where do you want to be in 5 years? And I remember one of my classmates was flat out honest, which to a T, I don't know if I'd be that honest because you're trying to, remember, you're hired with a group of people, you're trying to bond with your team, not be too shy, not be too, exuberant. You're trying to have that balance there to get to know your team and not be that person. I remember one of my classmates, goes, in 5 years, I expect to be a captain with this department. Not in those exact words. I don't mean to sound entitled there, but basically that's what it came across as. In 5 years, I will be a captain. Now there's some, like the instructor goes, I like that confidence. That is, that's confidence that we need in this department, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I did right or wrong. I did the dance around answer. I knew I wanted to become a captain at some point, but I also said, well, hopefully in the 5 years, I'll be the best firefighter that I can be. I'll be preparing for the captain's exam at some point. But again, I want to make sure I learn the job of a firefighter and an engineer first before I take that step to officer to make sure I have a well-rounded background when I'm in the company officer position. Sugarcoat it, whatever you want to call it. I was just trying not to sound arrogant or cocky. Well, nothing wrong with any of that. But the point is that other individual knew where they wanted to be. I knew where I wanted to be. Some just, well, good. This is the sad part. Some actually in the class go, Well, that's a good question. I just want, hopefully happy and loving the department, which I hope is the case for all of us. But having that vision, why it's important, and like I said, the next tip we'll talk about is vision, but for now, knowing where you want to be will help you plan your career. Maybe especially if you think that someday you want to be, say, not just a captain, but let's say a battalion chief or the training chief or the operations chief, or maybe the fire marshal, or maybe the fire chief. Great. Well, here's the thing. Let's say you want to be a fire chief at one point. Well, if you've looked at the job announcement for any fire chief position, most of them require a 4-year degree. Sometimes it usually says master's degree is desirable. And besides 4-year degree, a lot of them say other desirable or highly desirable quotes, air quotes, is maybe the Executive Fire Officer Certification Program through the National Fire Academy, which is an awesome program. National Fire Academy has tons of great things that are all free of charge to all of us. Or they may say other things that are highly desirable for a fire chief is maybe Chief Fire Officer designation through the CIPSE, or Center for Public Safety Excellence, another great organization that offers credentialing. Well, most fire chief job announcements around the country, especially in the major metropolitan areas, they're usually looking for the same type of person, someone that's obviously got some education, someone that has some credentials, someone that has actually got some experience, especially experience as a company officer and even as a chief officer, depending on the size of the department. I mean, those are usually the most common things. I'm not saying you have to have those qualifications to get promoted to chief, because there are chiefs out there that sort of bypass the ranks for whatever reason. And hey, it is what it is, but that's the rarity. But the point is, if you see that, you know what, man, if I want to be a fire chief, I got to have a 4-year degree, maybe a master's desirable. I got to look at executive fire officer certification. I got to be a captain for at least 5-10 years. I got to be a battalion chief for a few years, maybe just in your own department. And you've got no education. Well, guess what? It gives you time to plan, because in most departments, you got to work your way through the ranks, meaning you have to be on the job for, say, 4 or 5 years before you can even take the company officer's exam. And then assuming you take it and do great on it and get promoted off the first test, maybe you can become a company officer in 5 years. I'm not saying that's the best, but sometimes, that's the cycle of how it works. And in some departments, there ain't a lot of promotions, meaning a lot of small departments don't have a lot of movement, don't have a lot of turnover. So yeah, they may have a promotional captain's test every year, or 2 years or 3 years, but nobody ever gets promoted because no one ever retires, because there's so few of them. So there is no perfect time for taking a test, trust me. But my point is that if you see something on the horizon, just like, let's say you want to be in my position, you want to be the training chief. Well, it definitely helps to have a lot of training background, meaning experience as a trainer, certifications in training, whether they're state certifications, classes through the National Fire Academy, whatever it is, it helps to have that background versus just, I want to be a fire chief. Oh, by the way, I'm not even a captain yet. I don't even have a high school diploma yet. Well, good luck. You got a heck of a lot of things or hoops to jump through before you can even get there. So my point is, when at all possible, let's try to inspire those new hires as soon as possible to enjoy the ride. I mean, don't just jump straight to the top. Nobody wants to do that. Don't just, I got to get there. I got to get there. Enjoy the journey, but you know what? Don't let the journey pass you by, because it goes by quick. Trust me. I didn't think it'd go by quick in the beginning of my career. Now, the second half of my career, I'm like, holy crap, where'd time go? So know where you want to be. Now for some people, this may be where you want to be. And who am I to say? I'm not hey, don't hate the player, hate the game. Nothing wrong with recliners. Nothing wrong with recliners. The safety nap is one of the best things that the fire service has to offer, especially when we work 24-hour shifts, 48-hour shifts. Maybe we were busy the night before. Balance. We're all striving for a health, life, wellness balance. But if you're allowing the recliners to waste away your day, which is easy to happen in every department if the officers allow it to, and sadly a lot of company officers, chief officers allow it, screw it. We'll get to that training next shift. Or you know what? We don't need to go out and do company inspections. We'll do that next shift. Let's just take a nap. Click, 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 as the recliner goes back and your eyelids go boom. Again, take your safety naps. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying take the recliners out. So don't hate the game or hate the player. Balance. So get your safety nap in, but still get your training done. Don't allow mediocrity or incompetence to set in. Get your rest, prepare for that long night, but make sure you get your training done. Make sure you get your job done. Make sure you get your rig checked out, your rig dialed in, your station cleaned, the drill. But again, balance is the key. As always, thank you very much for the gift of your time. My contact information, my social media footprint. I'm hoping you're finding these things helpful in some capacity. And until the next one, y'all be safe and take care. Have a good day, everybody.